Last year, General Motors recalled roughly 600,000 trucks and SUVs for failing engines and seizing on the highway. Part of the official fix was a letter telling owners to run a thicker oil. Somewhere else in that same lineup sits a Chevy V8, where you pull the water pump off the front of the motor just to reach the distributor. And a third one drinks a quart of oil every 1,000 miles until the camshaft wears flat. The Chevy small block was supposed to be the last honest American engine left. Today we're covering the 3 worst and 5 best Chevy V8s to drive forever, and a couple of these are going to sting. Worst number 3, the Gen II LT1. This one hurts because on paper it was the best small block Chevy had ever built. The LT1 arrived in 1992 in the Corvette, and by 1994 it was under the hood of the Impala SS and the Caprice. 300 horsepower out of a 350 that still bolted to the same mounts your dad's truck used. Reverse cooling sent coolant through the heads first, which let GM run more compression and more spark advance. Smart engineering. Then they took the distributor, made it optical, and mounted it low on the front of the engine directly behind the water pump. Ask anybody who bought a 94 Impala SS. The water pump weeps a little coolant, nobody notices, and that moisture works into a sealed optical unit that hates moisture. The car stumbles, then it stalls at a light, and when it gets on a lift, the man doing the work has to pull the accessory drive and the water pump off just to reach a distributor that costs a couple $100 by itself. Same job on any other small block takes 15 minutes and a screwdriver. Here's your way around it. Want that era of Chevy V8? Buy the TBI 350 that came before it in an 87 through 95 truck. Less power, none of the drama, and a distributor you can reach standing up. And if you already own an LT1, replace that water pump before it weeps, not after. That's a great engine ruined by one part's address. The next one was ruined by a decision made in a boardroom. Worst number 2, the Gen 4 5.3 with active fuel management. Between 2007 and 2014, this was the most common V8 in America. Pull into a church parking lot in 2011 and you were surrounded by them. GM had a fuel economy target to hit, so they gave it active fuel management. Under light load, the engine shuts down 4 of its 8 cylinders by collapsing the lifters on those valves. On paper, you save a little fuel cruising. In practice, you've got 8 lifters doing a job they weren't designed to do hundreds of times an hour for 100,000 miles. They collapse. And when one collapses in the wrong position, it stops rotating and starts grinding a flat spot into the camshaft lobe above it. Here's the part that gets people. The first symptom usually isn't a noise. It's oil consumption. The AFM pressure relief valve sprays oil straight at the cylinder walls, the rings can't scrape it all off, and you start burning a quart every 1,000 miles. Owners have brought Tahoes in around 120,000 miles complaining about exactly that and been told it's normal for this engine. It was never normal. It was the front end of a $4,000 to $7,000 repair, because by the time the ticking starts, the cam is already gone. This went to court. The class action known as Siqueiros against General Motors covered the oil consumption defect in these engines, and GM lost in front of a jury. However, the story didn't end in 2022. NHTSA's complaint files on these trucks are thick with the same 3 words over and over: burning, ticking, collapsed. When a man who's owned nothing but Chevy trucks since 1978 tells his son the next one is going to be a Tundra, that isn't disloyalty. That's a warranty department that ran out of answers. Your way around it is free. Check the RPO sticker in the glove box and find out whether that truck came with AFM at all. Plenty didn't. And the 4.8-liter V8 from the same years never got the system in the first place, which makes it the quiet bargain of that whole generation. Remember the words active fuel management. You'll hear them again later on the good half of this list, in a car almost nobody thinks to check. The worst Chevy V8 ever built isn't a 15-year-old truck engine though. It's sitting on dealer lots right now. Worst number 1, the Gen 5 6.2L 87. Brand new engine, brand new vehicle, and the most expensive way to get burned on this entire list. The 6.2-liter L87 goes into the Silverado, the Sierra, the Tahoe, the Yukon, the Suburban, and the Escalade. Top of the range, 420 horsepower. In a loaded Escalade, you're handing over close to $80,000. And the rod bearings fail. Not at 300,000 miles. Owners have had these let go under 20,000, some of them under 10. There's no warning you'd catch in time. A man merges onto the interstate in a truck he's still making payments on, hears a knock for about 4 seconds, and then the engine locks solid, and he's coasting onto the shoulder with his hazards blinking. In 2025, GM recalled somewhere around 600,000 vehicles over it. The failures trace back to bearing clearances and machining debris left in the block at the factory. Now sit with this part. One piece of GM's official remedy was moving owners from a 0W20 oil to a thicker 0W40. If the answer to a bearing failure is more oil film, the clearances were never right to begin with. That's a bandage with a corporate letterhead on it. And when one does fail, you're not getting it back quickly. Replacement engines went on back order. Owners have sat for months with a $70,000 truck taking up half the driveway, making payments on a vehicle they can't start. So what do you do if you want a big Chevy V8 right now? Two things. If you're buying used, step back to a pre-2021 6.2, the L96, which used the same displacement without this bearing problem. And if you already own an L87, the recall inspection and the oil change are free at any dealer. So get the VIN run this week rather than next month. Every failure you've heard so far has one thing in common, and it isn't Chevrolet. It's what Chevrolet bolted onto these engines to hit a fuel economy number. Cylinder deactivation, thin oil, emissions-era spark control shoved into a bad spot on the block. If this is the kind of thing you want more of, the stuff that never makes it into a brochure, hit subscribe. It's free, it takes a second, and it keeps us making these. Now the 5 Chevy V8s that got left alone. Best number 5, the Gen 1 Small Block 350, the one to rebuild. A few weeks back, we ran this engine against a million-mile standard, and it did not clear the bar. That still stands. A stock small block 350 will not see a 7-figure odometer on its original internals. But a million miles is the wrong bar for almost everybody watching this. Here's the bar it clears with room to spare. 250 to 300,000 miles on regular maintenance, and then something almost no engine on Earth can offer, which is that when it finally wears out, you fix it in a weekend for less than the down payment on a used car. A full rebuild kit runs under $1,000. Add machine work and you're still under $2,000. There are men watching this who rebuilt one of these on a Saturday in a one-car garage with a torque wrench, a timing light, and a can of assembly lube. 65 million of them were built. Every parts counter in America has a water pump on the shelf. Every mechanic alive has had his hands in one. What to shop for? The 87 through 95 TBI trucks are the sweet spot, and running examples still trade between $3,000 and $6,000 depending on rust. Buy the body, not the engine, because the engine is the cheapest thing to fix on the whole truck. That's what driving forever really means for most people. Not that it never breaks, that it never breaks you. Best number 4, the LS1 5.7, the one to enjoy. When GM finally replaced the old small block in 1997, they got it right on the first attempt. The LS1 went into the C5 Corvette, the 4th generation Camaro and Firebird, and later the Pontiac GTO. Aluminum block, 6-bolt main caps, a deep skirt design that keeps the bottom end stiff, and a valve train with nothing clever anywhere in it. Port injections sitting outside the combustion chamber so the backs of the intake valves stay clean. No cylinder deactivation. 2 things to know before you buy. Early cars had valve spring issues, and the oil pump pickup O-ring is a known weak point that'll starve the pump if it dries out. Both are cheap, both are documented to death, and both get sorted in an afternoon. The honest caveat is that this engine lived an easy life. It was never asked to tow 8,000 pounds up a grade in August. Some of that legendary reputation belongs to the duty cycle rather than the engineering. Shop the 1999 through 2004 C5 Corvette, which still trades between $14,000 and $20,000 and is the cheapest way anyone has ever bought a 200,000-mile V8 that's fun on a Sunday, which is exactly why the next one is the more impressive engine, even though nobody puts it on a poster. Best number 3, the 6.0 LQ4 and LQ9, the one to swap. Same family as the LS1, except this one went to work. From 2001 to 2007, the 6.0-liter LQ4 and its higher compression brother, the LQ9, went into the 2500 HD, the 3500, the Express van, the Hummer H2, and the Escalade. Iron block instead of aluminum, because GM wasn't building these to win a magazine comparison. Port injection, a camshaft that sits there and does one job. And no active fuel management, because in 2001, nobody had yet asked GM to shave 1/10 of a mile per gallon off a 3/4-ton truck. 300,000 miles on one of these is a normal outcome, not a story you tell at a car show. They pulled horse trailers and plow blades for 2 decades, and the ones still running are still running. It drinks fuel, 13, maybe 14 miles per gallon if you're gentle, and there's no version that doesn't. Anybody telling you otherwise is trying to sell you one. 2 ways to buy it. A clean 2003 through 2007 2500 HD sits around $8,000 to $14,000. Or skip the truck entirely, because complete running takeouts show up in salvage yards for $600 to $1,000, and there's an entire community that does nothing but drop them into things they were never meant to go in. Best number 2, the 6.2L S3, the one to buy carefully. 430 horsepower with none of the fragility, which shouldn't be possible and somehow is. The LS3 ran from 2008 to 2017 in the C6 Corvette, the 5th generation Camaro SS, and the Pontiac G8 GXP. Rectangular port heads, a bigger bore, port fuel injection again, and a bottom end that handles a supercharger without complaint. People have run these past 250,000 miles and past 400 horsepower, sometimes on the same engine. Now here's where those 3 words come back. The automatic transmission version of the 5th gen Camaro didn't get an LS3, it got the L99. Same displacement, same block, same badge on the fender. But the L99 has active fuel management, the exact system that ground the camshaft flat in the truck engine we covered earlier. Manual car, you get the LS3. Automatic car, you get the L99. 2 cars on the same lot, stickers within a few $100s of each other, and one carries a known failure mode, the other doesn't have it all. The badge tells you nothing, the pedal count tells you everything. Look for a 2010 through 2015 Camaro SS with a manual, 18 to 26,000, and read the window sticker before the odometer. Best number 1. The 6.0 L96 Vortec, the one to work. The best Chevy V8 to drive forever isn't in a Corvette, it's in the van that picked you up from the airport. The L96 is a 6.0-liter iron block V8 GM, built from 2010 to about 2019, and it went almost entirely into vehicles nobody films for a commercial. The 2500 HD and 3500 HD, the Express and Savannah cargo vans, cutaway chassis under shuttle buses, ambulances, box trucks, and church vans. If you've ridden in something with a fleet number stenciled on the door in the last 15 years, odds are this engine was in front of you. Here's why it wins. By 2010, GM was putting active fuel management into everything they could because the fuel economy rules demanded it. Heavy-duty trucks and cutaway chassis sat outside those rules, so the engineers building the L96 were never told to add cylinder deactivation, and they never did. It was also built before GM moved the truck line to direct injection, so fuel still sprays into the intake port and washes the backs of the valves clean the way it's been done since the 80s. What you're left with is an iron block, a hydraulic roller cam nobody asked to collapse on command, port injection, and variable valve timing that's been in service a decade and a half without a pattern of failure. Nothing clever anywhere in it. The mileage is hard to believe until you talk to somebody who runs a fleet. Shuttle vans doing airport loops 16 hours a day come back past 400,000 miles on original internals with a maintenance log that says oil, plugs, and 1 water pump. Ambulance services run them idling at a scene for hours at a time. School districts hold on to them for 20 years, which no district does with anything that costs them money. And because these trucks are unglamorous, the used market has never priced them properly. A 2012 through 2018 2500 HD with an L96 runs $18,000 to $28,000, and a high-mile express van with the same engine can be had under $15,000. Compare that to a pretty half-ton carrying an engine that'll hand you a $5,000 bill at 140,000 miles. It's the least exciting engine Chevrolet built this century, and it'll outlive every one on this list. Chevy V8 durability was never a brand promise, it's an option code. The bad ones here weren't badly engineered, they were good engines with a fuel economy device bolted on, and the device is what failed. The good ones are the ones nobody bothered to modernize, either because they were too old or because the trucks they went in were exempt. So before you buy anything wearing a bow tie, don't ask what year it is, ask what's inside it. Check for AFM, check for direct injection, check which transmission it came with. That one habit is worth more than any warranty you'll ever be sold. Tell me in the comments which one you'd still be driving in 2036. The model years to avoid are on screen right now. Subscribe!